So in this segment, once again, I don't want to have to do this, but
I have to talk about facts.
we're going to be talking about more government corruption when it comes to PPE, and this stems off that video I made of Boris's bad month, and so we're going to go into specifics. So we've done the Priti Patel one, so we're going to be talking about PPE and other things in this video. So companies recommended by MPs, peers, and ministers were given priority as the government raced to obtain personal protective equipment. The National Audit Office found over half of the 18 billion on pandemic-related contracts was awarded without competitive tender. So this is without companies being able to bid. And so what that meant is the taxpayer got ripped off. And so if these governments were this government was looking out for the taxpayer and wanted to spend money properly and all this malarkey, they would have put competitive tender in, got a couple companies and said, look, what's the best prices you can do for these, but they didn't. So shock, it's given to their mates. So over half the £18 billion spent on pandemic-related contracts was awarded without competitive tender. The spending watchdog said the government was not transparent about supplies and services. It also found inadequate explanation of spending decisions. And so what that means is they gave a lot of money to their mates. And if we actually look at some of these contracts, we can see that safety concerns halt the use of 50 million NHS masks. So 50 million face masks brought by the UK in April will not be used in the NHS because of safety concerns. The government says the masks, which use an ear loop fastening, so you can see it fasten around the ear, rather than head loops, may not be fit tightly enough. So there's a head loop on. They were brought for the NHS England healthcare workers from Ayanda Capital as part of a £252 million contract. Ayanda say the capital that the mask the specifications number 10 had set out, and that the Prime Minister said he was disappointed that protective kit should not be unfit for use. So either this company's lying, Ayanda Capital's lying, and the government actually gave them the wrong specification, or the government gave them the right specification and the capital are lying and gave the wrong mask and took the money, basically. And I don't know if the government are going to recomp any of this money. It's unlikely, though. So we go on. This guy here, Feldman, Lord Feldman. So a public relations firm whose managing partner previously advised ministers on COVID is providing consultancy for a testing company signed up by the government. So this guy, by the looks of things, Feldman, he works for a PR company as well as being a lord. This man has a lot of time in his hands, clearly, and that company has been hired by the government. It struck a £28 million deal for PR. Why do you need so much money on PR? That's the question. Why do you need to spend so much money on doing this sort of spin work? Why? We go on. So this is about Jacob Rees-Mogg talking about the NAO report, the National Audit Office. Saying that everyone knows if you've a leak at 2 a.m. and call the plumber out, it costs more than if you call the plumber out in 3 months' time. I mean, that's not true, really. Unless the leak gets worse. We're in a situation of having a leak at 2 a.m. It was inevitably expensive. Sure, they'll charge you an extra couple of quid for coming out at 2 a.m. if they do, or they say they'll come in the morning. But that doesn't make sense because oh god, I forgot what I was going to say. It doesn't make sense because we had time to prepare, and instead of actually doing that, what they did was they paid this guy, a middleman, in one of the cases, Sega, a guy we've talked about a lot, and basically he was paid to be a middleman to get PPE. So, but what you've done is not paid for a plumber to come out. You've taken someone else's money, because this is taxpayers' money. This is not his own money. He's taken someone else's money, paid for a middleman to hire out a plumber who did not do the job properly, or at all. So say multiple leaks, didn't fix something properly, and didn't bother with some of the other ones. And so Rees-Mogg's analogy falls flat on his face, just like he should do back in Victorian England. So this guy Sega was paid a lot of money, £21 million of UK taxpayer cash, and he was a middleman. So he made a lot of money from this. We see that some of the test kits, this was advised by a Conservative MP as well. This company is advised by a Conservative Party MP, and they got test kits. So the swabs in some of the batches of one brand of coronavirus home test kits are not up to standard. Health Secretary said these are made by Randox. It's not mentioned in the article the MP's name. I can't remember his name. I remember what he looks like though. And so that's another fraud thing. So we've got a couple of different fraud businesses getting money from the government here. Taxpayers' money. If you work and you pay taxes, that's your money being wasted. So you should be angry. Boris Johnson being proud of the PPE contracts being given. So Boris Johnson says he's proud of the way the government got supplies of personal protective equipment at the start of the coronavirus pandemic. This is a guy this is a party which didn't add to the pandemic stockpile, knew something was kicking off in November, knew something definitely was kicking off around February, didn't bother to figure out what was going on. Boris Johnson missed several Cobra meetings, wasted massive amounts of taxpayers' money, and now he's like, we're proud of the way we dealt with things. And that's not even it. There is more stuff here. So this lady here, the lady in charge of doing the vaccines, the person in charge, Kate Bingham, she's the wife of a Conservative Party MP. She's also a vulture capitalist who knows very little about vaccines. She also paid £670,000 of taxpayers' money to a boutique PR team, right, that was headed by Dominic Cummings' dad. So this company that's run by Dominic Cummings' dad is getting paid £670,000 of taxpayers' money by the wife of a Conservative MP who is in charge of vaccines, who knows nothing about vaccines. And the way the government have said that this money was need to be spent because of anti-vaxxers. Maybe if you weren't so anti-science, looking at you especially, Michael Gove, saying that, oh, this country's tired of experts, maybe you would have less anti-vaxxers. So yeah. And we get to the final point of the story, which is the government's being taken to court over giving jobs to certain people, and I think over the PPE as well. So Boris Johnson and his health secretary, Matt Hancock, acted unlawfully when appointing 3 key figures. So it's not over PPE, this is over the jobs given to like Dido Harding, Bingham, and someone else. So including the head of NHS Test and Trace, Dido Harding, to post in which in the fight against COVID, according to a legal challenge. So basically, this legal group, the Good Law Project, they're alleging that Boris Johnson broke the law by giving these certain people jobs, Dido Harding and Kate Bingham, and there's a third one, and Mike Coop, to the role of director of testing at the testing at NHS Test and Trace. So the case has been lodged jointly by the not-for-profit group, the Good Law Project, headed by Jolyon Monkham, I never remember how to pronounce his name, and the UK's race equality think tank, the Runnymede Trust, which sounds like a type of alcohol. If it is successful, it would represent a serious further blow to the credibility of the government handling of the pandemic and support claims that ministers have been running a chumocracy, which is, giving money to their chums. The claimants say the appointments were made without advertising the positions and without the open competition normally insisted on for public sector roles. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, are these the best people for the jobs? No. Dido Harding, notorious failure. Kate Bingham knows nothing about vaccines. Okay. These jobs weren't advertised, so how did these people get these jobs? Because they were married to Conservative Party MPs. And we know from the National Audit Office report that Conservative MPs, lords and ministers were favoured over groups with expertise when it came to giving out contracts. That's something we know, fact. So, this legal case, we'll see where it goes. Going back to it, the claimants question the experience and suitability of the 3 to carry out the roles, and also say that because the positions were not advertised and are unpaid, the government was guilty of indirectly discriminating against others outside the very well-off, predominantly white group from which the 3 were chosen. They also say the government breached equality obligations for public sector appointments. In relation to Harding's appointment by Hancock in May to head the Test and Trace programme, the claimants say her experience was not such that it was obvious without a selection process that she was uniquely qualified for the role. Absolutely makes sense. Hancock and Harding already knew each other partly through horse racing connections. Harding was appointed to a second role in September as the head of the National Institute for Health Protection, again without open competition or the role being advertised. So here it looks very dodgy, especially for the secondary role, which was the government could have advertised it. So the claimants say Bingham, who has worked in the fields of venture capital and therapeutics and was at school with the Prime Minister's sister, Rachel, had no experience of public health administration and no expertise in immunology. Her husband, Jesse Norman, is a Tory minister and was a contemporary of the Prime Minister at Eton. So it's a big boys' club, or should I say a big people's club at this point, because these are just people they know that are given jobs. Kate Bingham allegedly gave out information to a bunch of lobbyists about the vaccine as well, and so what these lobbyists would do is know which companies to invest in for when the vaccine is ready. So it's just embarrassing. Referring to Coop's appointment, the claimants say Mr. Coop's most significant professional experience is as the former CEO of Sainsbury's. He has no experience as a public administrator or in the health sector. He is a former colleague and friend of Baroness Harding, who worked with him at Sainsbury's. The claimants are inviting the court to declare that the government acted unlawfully in the way it made the appointments. They are not seeking to remove these three from their posts, which they accept would be disruptive at a time of crisis. Absolutely, they should be removed. They should be removed, but to ensure that future governments are bound to act fairly and lawfully. Another 341 people in the UK died of COVID on Saturday. And so what we can tell from this is the government are being sued over the appointment of these three people, and I think they're going to be sued over the PPE contracts that have been given out as well. So yeah, the government in a very sticky situation here, and they should be, because of the way they've dealt with the pandemic. They've dealt with it badly. They've given a lot of money out to their mates, and they're struggling to keep this in check. The only reason the government are lucky is that there's about 4 years to the next general election. So there's a long time left until the government have to actually front up for the mistakes that they've made. And 4 years is a long time. A lot of people are going to forget, I think. I hope not, but I think people will forget. There'll be other problems in the future and stuff like that. So anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.